Elton's retirement journey. Welcome back. In our last session, we were talking about back to work, where I was imitating a 22-year-old who had executed the emergency action plan, which was the video behind that. So now I'm back to work, and I got about 3 years of employment in. I'm putting away a percentage of my income. And I actually heard that from a peer that the previous employer who laid me off is no longer in business. So I got some advice for you. You want to save your W 2s from your previous employer for each year you work. Pull them from your income tax that you filed and make sure you scan them and save them and get your manila folder and put those W 2s in that folder and keep them safe in a fireproof safe box. You're going to get one of those if you don't have one to keep all your important papers in. And here's the reason why. As you get older and you change jobs, you're going to go in with an employer who may be in the financial industry, could be in the federal government, could be in transportation, like working for the railroad or something like that. They're going to hire a company like either Sterling or hire right to do a background check. And they're going to look at your resume and the time that you were employed there, and they're going to want proof. That employer who is no longer in business, they have nobody to call. There's no way of verifying your employment. So your W 2, and hopefully, if you can manage to get your first and last paycheck, if they were in ADP, you want to save those and print them out so that you can scan and send this stuff to these people. I guarantee you, you will need this information. I've worked for a number of companies that have letters in them and numbers. They all went out of business. Fortunately, in the day's employment environment, they like to go back 10 years. So if you say you work for a company for such and such years, make sure you got the W 2s and preferably the first and last paycheck. You always want to do that. If you've got a college degree, make sure if you're alumni, you have somebody that they can call and verify that you went to school and you graduated. Now, if it's a non accredited university and you're flaunting that diploma, I strongly recommend that you don't use it because these employers don't play now. They outsource all of the verification, and if they can't verify that diploma or that you're accredited, it's like a school that went out of business, you're screwed. So, this is advice from your Uncle Elton, and I hope this helps. But anyway, I want to talk to you about a few other things. So, we covered that. I got my list together. And as a young person, you're going to be switching jobs, you're going to need to be investing. It's okay if you're only pumping a couple grand into these accounts, this 401k. That's going to be your primary account. But when you leave an employer, you want to take a look at the value of that account. If it's down, maybe you want to wait a little while, but I don't recommend it. I recommend you roll over that into an investment account. Now, in the investment world, there's two types. There's a full service broker, and these are the guys who are going to help you with your investments. You call them up and you say, they're going to have a message: do not leave any trades on this line. You always have to speak to them. Those are the full service brokers, and they need to take your order and execute it. They also will help with the rollovers, but the full service brokers don't really like accounts that sit around and don't have any activity. Trust me, I know it. That's what I started out with. In my videos, I started talking about why no investing, and I was talking about the uh, the fact that you got to put this money away, have the 10% penalty, and pay the taxes and stuff like that. But eventually I started investing and I kept going. But after a while, the primary investing was done in the 401k. The 401k will offer you quite a bit, but it's loaded with fees. As a young person, you're just going to have to go with that to get that match. But you can invest outside of your 401k. If you're putting a percentage away and you've got a gig job that you're doing, or some of the other stuff that I talked about in the emergency action plan, you're doing all of this and you say, hey, I want to take this extra couple $100 and I want to invest it, you're probably going to want to go with a online service, and that would be something like Fidelity, E Trade, even Charles Schwab. They bought TD Ameritrade, and that's where you can open up an account, deposit some money in it, and use their search features to pick what you want to do. That's what I do. That's why I have a Fidelity account, I have a Charles Schwab, and I have an E Trade account. These are accounts that I manage on my own. And what's so great about them is if I leave an employer, I can roll over my 401k investments to them. The reason I have a Charles Schwab account is when I was at a healthcare organization, I had a Harbor Capital Appreciation that they were matching on it, and I was putting in it, and it grew pretty well. I said, hey, this thing's got some really good returns. So I rolled it over to Charles Schwab, and there were some other investments that were totally separate that went over in cash. And I've been managing in that account for a number of years. I started with 8 grand. It's at 15,000 right now, and that's in the Charles Schwab. Later on, once I retire, I won't have that separate account. That Charles Schwab account, if I can get it up to 20 grand, then I'm probably going to liquidate that first. But eventually, I'll take those investments and I'll put them in one consolidated account. And that's an online account. The Fidelity account is the same way. I had an investments with a couple employers that had Fidelity, the Contra Fund, and a couple other ones. Well, I rolled those over in kind over to the Fidelity, and I was so happy that I did because I put the 10 grand in there from the recycling company, and eventually it grew. It got up to about 19,000. And when I went to the NACA program, it was time for me to buy the house. I took 5 grand out of there as a first time home buyer. They waived the 10% penalty, and I did that in 2014. So I was probably about 48 or something like that. Um, but I was able to do it on my own. I went to the office. I sold the shares first. Then I went to the office, and they did the wire for me, and they wired it right on in to the attorney for the closing. So that's why you want to have your own account outside. So we covered that. And you also want to take a look at your fee only advisors. Your fee only advisors are going to help you set up your different strategies and mostly buckets. So for the long term, you got growth, number one. In the later stages, when you retire 40 years down the line, or if it's even 10 years from now, or in my case, 5 years from now, you want to start setting up for income. And that's where you start putting investments in things like the short term government notes and maybe some money markets, because you don't want to lose your principal when you're about to start drawing on. Then, last but least, you're going to have your investment advisor. These are the guys who come in, analyze your investments, and they're going to make recommendations. They're going to say, well, we want you to sell these and sell this and move it over here, and we'll make the investment decisions for you. They're going to charge you a fee. You can bet on that. But if you're the type of professional who's very, very busy, you're a doctor, you spend all your time reading journals, going to your seminars, you can probably afford a fee, an investor that charges a percentage to manage that. But you got to be very, very careful because they have governorship of your account, which means they can sell and do what they want with it. They can trigger tax events. These tax events could cause you to have expensive filings when it comes to the capital gains. The losses, it can get complicated. You know, you get a 1099B, that's the profit and loss from these brokerage accounts. So I hope this helps you. I'm thinking that you're back to work and you're a young person. You know, you want to start trying to take a close look at these investments and the different type of investments and the investment firms. You know, if you got a couple mutual funds, just track them. If you're at a company and you leave, move the money with you so you don't forget. Don't leave it in the 401k where it's subject to those fees. You can move it. And if it means selling cash, you know, you got one fund that you've been watching, you like it, the year to date shows it's been growing, and you got a couple or break even, convert them into cash. And when you move them, a lot of the online services are going to talk about a mutual fund finder, and you have to find your own mutual fund. And as someone who's been doing it, I would advise you to look for funds that trade with a net asset value of about $25. These investments, you can pick out, jump in, and start adding money to it. You know, they have potential to grow. If you pick some with a small, moderate income in your investments, and they're very expensive, you're not going to get many shares. It's the shares and the appreciation and the reinvestment of the capital gains that's going to help you grow. So this is Elton's retirement journey. I'm still trying to help out the young folks. Get back to work, save those W-2s, save those check stubs, keep investing, keep track of your 401ks and move them with you, because most of your investment is going to be done in the 401k because you won't miss it. Okay. I hope this advice helps. And you got any comments, go ahead and leave them with me. Like and subscribe because I've got some more good stuff coming out probably this weekend. We're going to talk about avoiding taking this money at 62. Thanks.